Hey guys, so I wanted to come on and briefly talk about something that comes up a lot actually, and that is public speaking. So for those of you who are new to this channel, I am a 3L in law school right now, and coming to law school, one of the biggest things I learned about myself is that I have a really big fear of public speaking. Somehow I hadn't realized it before law school, but I think law school just brought up a lot of like latent fears and anxieties in me that I just had never had to really deal with on that level before. So my 1L year in law school, I started noticing that like every time I had to talk in class, my heart would start pounding very quickly and I would kind of get out of breath and I would just be so nervous. And I didn't really talk in class often, but like I would speak up if I felt like I had something important enough to say. And whenever that would happen, I would just find myself, like, for lack of a better term, just freaking out on a very visceral level. And like I just had never really realized that that's something that I do before. So I don't want to like send the wrong message. I don't think it was a phobia. I don't think it was like anxiety or anything clinical like that. I want to stay away from using those terms because I never saw anyone about it and I was never diagnosed. And I just feel like it would be irresponsible to characterize what I was experiencing in that way, since I am not a healthcare or mental health care like professional. But it was something that was at the very least extremely inconvenient for me, and at the very most something that I felt like would only continue to be a hindrance if I didn't address it. So, and it was embarrassing too, because my voice would do this thing where it got like shaky and I would sound like I was about to cry. And then like when people would turn and look at me, I would feel very self-conscious because I was like, they probably think I'm about to cry, they probably think this, they probably think that. So it was just like not a very good experience for me, and it was something that I really wanted to like get under control. 1L was so busy and I just had so much going on with exams and just being a first-year law student that I just sort of avoided any opportunity that would require me to speak in public. I remember the one thing that I did 1L year that was like kind of confronting this fear is I participated in mock trial, and my team was like a really great group of girls, very supportive, and they all gave me really positive feedback about my oral arguments in court and also my performance as a witness. And so like I started to think maybe I am not awful at this, like maybe I'm good at it. When I started to think back to the mock trial tournament and I thought about it, and I was like, I enjoyed myself on that day too. Like I came out of it with this rush, with this like, I don't want to say a high, but it felt like an adrenaline rush, and I just felt like it was such a positive experience for me. And so thinking about these past experiences, I stopped and I asked myself, like, what would happen if I stopped avoiding this fear and I started chasing it? So I just became hungry. Like I became ravenous, just aggressive about pursuing opportunities that would require me to speak in public. I started talking in class more. I started doing more simulations. I was chair of one of our conferences, which is a really big deal at the law school, as a member of the Black Law Student Association, and I volunteered to speak to the entire body of assembled guests at that conference. I presented my thesis at the United Nations as part of a class. I sat as interlocutor when notable dignitaries came to campus, and the list goes on and on and on. And I just started pursuing this fear with zeal and with passion. And I found that the more I pursued these opportunities, the less scared I was each and every time, the easier that they became. And I think it almost got to a point where like I didn't even realize that I'd gotten beyond this fear. And it stopped being like this conscious, I'm pursuing my fears thing, to public speaking was no longer a factor in whether or not I decided to pursue an opportunity. So I want to just let you guys know a couple tips that might help you, because there are things that I definitely learned along the way that help me sort of get through any public speaking obligation that I have, even if it is something that I did not get to plan for or something that took me by surprise. So the first thing I want to say is you should sound like you. And this is something that I pulled from making YouTube videos, which is that even if someone doesn't know you very well, well, even if someone hasn't heard you speak, it is not difficult to know when you're not being yourself. And I think that's something that we tend to underestimate. You have to sound like yourself. I think one of the biggest compliments that friends give me when they watch my channel is they're like, it's so funny because I feel like I'm just in the room with you and we're just talking. Like, you actually talk like that. You actually gesticulate. You actually switch in and out of accents. You actually do all that stuff that you do on your channel in person. And I think that's just so funny and refreshing. And that means a lot to me because I definitely don't want to be misrepresenting like myself on here. I want you guys to feel like you're actually getting me, Fumaya, who I am on this channel. So you want to make sure that you sound like you when you're speaking publicly, and that'll just make it easier because then you're not stumbling in your head to find the words. The words come much easier to you when you are just being your true and authentic self. The next thing I will say is use short and simple words. When you are making remarks or speaking publicly, especially when it's like an important event, the temptation is to sound important. The temptation is to sound intelligent and use really big words, but that is one of the biggest mistakes that you can make. It never comes across well when you're using a bunch of words that people don't typically use, or even words that most people don't understand. You want to make sure you use conversational speech and conversational tone. If you think about even presidents, right, when they make speeches, they occupy what is supposed to be the most dignified office in the entire country, and they still speak in very conversational tone. It's not this like high and lofty philosophical speech where you're just like, where did that accent even come from? Where you're just like, you get what I'm saying, like using all these words and just trying to sound sophisticated. Sometimes the most sophisticated and profound thing you will say is going to be very simple, very colloquial. It's about the meaning and intention and the thought behind what you're saying, less about whatever thesaurus synonym that you found that sounds more impressive. I am going to say, just to reiterate, be conversational, be straightforward, talk to the crowd like you're talking to one person. That one takes a lot of pressure off of you, and it too helps to maintain that conversational tone. So just pretend in your head like you're just talking to someone at lunch or something. Do not script, roadmap. So what I mean by this is, unless you're gonna get up there and just straight up read like you're taking a paper with you, I would not script what you are going to say. I would make a roadmap of topics that you want to cover in bullet form. You might take that up with you, but ideally you won't need it. And that way you have a rough sketch of the points that you want to make, but you're not going up there with a script in your head. And where this is powerful is if you roadmap, you'll stay on topic, you'll hit the points that you want to make, and it helps to maintain that conversational tone. Whereas if you go up there with a script in your head, one, it's not going to sound natural, it's not going to sound authentic, it's not going to sound conversational, but two, more importantly, you're going to stumble and mess up more often because you feel like if you don't say exactly what was in your script that you've messed up. And that's where you hear people saying, sorry, excuse me, and it's like, well, no, if you don't say the exact word in your script, that's fine. Just say whatever comes to mind, so long as it makes sense, and you'll be fine. You don't need to stick to exactly whatever you had in mind when you were planning what you were going to say. A lot of times with public speaking is people end up talking too fast, which is like way faster than is comfortable for them or even makes sense to the audience, or they end up talking too slow with a lot of ums. What I have started doing is, so I'll say something, and if it concludes the idea, I'll just pause and then move on to whatever I'm going to say next. I do not feel the need to fill that gap. It's like a nervous tick where you feel the need to fill every silence. Learn to be comfortable with the little bits of silence when you're talking. I know it's like a deafening silence when you're one person talking in a room full of a large group of people, but being comfortable with that silence is how you really master the room. You show that you're in charge. You show that you're in control. It communicates confidence. And then you're not filling that space with meaningless ums and like hesitations like that. If you need to take a breath, pause and take a breath. It's all part of the pausing and having your own tempo and finding it and just staying there and being comfortable in it. It communicates confidence, it shows that you're in charge of the room, and it will just help you feel better as well. If you're breathing, you'll feel less uncomfortable and you'll feel less nervous, I promise. You don't want to fidget. So if you're talking and you're standing up, you want to keep your hands relaxed, definitely standing up straight with good posture, but you don't want to be fidgeting, picking at your cuticles or anything like that. And then the last thing I will say is to maintain what I call floating eye contact. You want to make sure that it looks like you're looking at certain people in the audience, even though you may not be really making direct eye contact with them. And you want to make sure that you move around often enough so that you're not distracted by anyone in the audience. People, when they're sitting in an audience, sometimes they zone out, sometimes they have a lot of things going through their mind, sometimes they're texting, sometimes they're like chatting with the person next to them, passing notes. Their faces are going to do a lot of things that if you zero in on any one face, it's going to be off-putting and distracting and maybe even discouraging and make you feel like you're not doing a great job. And then you'll get in your head and you get distracted, and it's just all around a bad scene. But if you maintain floating eye contact, and what that means is you're looking at the crowd, you're moving from face to face, you're looking around. They can't tell that you're not looking at them, but you're moving your head, you're moving your face, and you're giving the impression that you're looking at the actual people in the crowd, and that makes them feel like they're part of the conversation. Think about when you're in an audience and the speaker makes eye contact with you. It makes you feel like you're part of the conversation and you're like, and that helps with attention. People tend to pay attention when they feel like the speaker knows that they're there. So that's it for my video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have already subscribed, take the next step. Next to the subscribe button, there is a little bell. If you click that, you'll be notified whenever I upload a video. This is important because YouTube videos no longer populate in the subscription feed all the time. So signing up for notifications just ensures that you don't miss anything. I have content on law school, faith, relationships, personal life, and development. And so if you want to make sure that you're getting that content, sign up for notifications. You obviously don't have to watch every single video, but it's better to know about it. I am on Instagram, so definitely find me on there if you want to send me a message or a DM. I take private requests for advice and try to incorporate them in future videos. I am in the middle of Vlogmas right now, so if you have any requests that you want to see for that content, comment down below. Comment below what your biggest public speaking mishap is. If you guys have stories, I would love to hear them, and I'll share some of mine in the comments with you guys as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love you guys, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.